are you?
Good.
Good? How long are you guys in LA for?
We were just here for one day.
1 day?
Yeah.
In and out?
I have kids. I have young kids. So everything I
know.
do now is like
Congrats, by the way.
required to be in and out. You know what I mean? It's like a part of my like contract stipulations because it's just like nothing that's worth being away from your kids. You
So
know,
this
like
is
they're so young.
Baby number 3?
3.
So what are you doing out here in LA?
We're just on a press tour. We got Bill Maher a little bit later. I'm doing that whatever podcast.
You're doing that?
Yeah, I don't get it.
Is that with
like
girls?
Fresh and Fit?
Okay.
Oh my
okay,
God.
So it's like Fresh and Fit for girls. Okay,
Wow.
so that one. So we're just doing.
Candace should go on Fresh and Fit.
I should go on Fresh and Fit.
Yeah.
Do you watch that?
No, I've only seen clips of it, but I know what it is.
What do you think of it?
That's the one that Andrew Tate went on, right?
Yeah, like a long time ago.
I don't know. It feels like it's the moment right now, I guess. You know, like a lot of people are doing podcasts like that.
Because they're pretty savage too, right?
Yeah, it's like, you know, I think like the hyper masculine podcast is kind of having its moment right now. And I think it's because there were so many hyper feminine ones for so long. So it's just like the equilibrium of things that are evening out. But I've heard about the Fresh and Fit podcast, haven't been on it or seen too much of it, but it makes sense.
Do you think the hyper masculine is like going too far now that it's like the cool thing to do? That's what we say too. Like before you couldn't say anything on the internet.
Right.
And now we're saying like now you can say almost like whatever the
Right.
you want.
Well,
Do you notice that?
yeah, I would say I don't think it's gone too far only because it was a very long period of just hyper feminist men can't say anything. And so I feel like over the last couple of years now, men are just like, F that. Like, I'm just going to say whatever I want.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think there's a perfect equilibrium in the world. And inevitably, if you're going to give this much energy to one side, it was going to come back. So it seems like it's louder, but it's actually kind of just evening out, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
Steiny with the whole streaming shit.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watch like any of those like kick streamers and stuff, but like
No.
they're just being like, it feels like they're like trying to get canceled now. Like they're just saying like blatantly like racist shit. Like
Oh,
just
I have
like
not.
it's like right. or
It's
no?
crazy. I think now because there's like private platforms that are paying people that like have no censorship, that people are just like, yo, I'm going to say whatever I want because they know it goes viral.
Which already happens, by the way. I mean, that's like I have my little cousin who plays. I'm so sorry, guys. I know nothing about video games, but it's Grand Theft Auto, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone.
And
plays
all
that.
of the what's the other one that's like the war one? I sound really ignorant right now. But
Call
I
of
don't play.
Duty?
I've never played any of these
Probably
games.
Call of Duty.
I stopped at Mario Kart, but
is fire.
like I just remember watching my cousin. He was playing it, and like the stuff they were saying in the chat. It's 11 years
yeah.
old, and I was like, "This is actually where the free, uncensored." Like reading those chats, I was like, "This is an 11-year-old saying this." So yeah, I mean, it's always existed there. There's always been kind of this underbelly of the internet, but I feel like now people are starting to try it, experiment with it on podcasts because of that. Like, I feel like 15-year period of women just being
Yeah.
like, men can't say anything.
How is it? This is gonna be kid number 3 for you.
Kid number 3, little boy. Yeah, second boy. I have a son who's 2, a girl that just turned 13 months. And yeah, this will be a boy. Back to back to back, which is what I always wanted.
How has it been raising kids?
It's been great. You know, I think it's one of those things that I encourage all women to do. I think in certain ways, men are lost, women are lost. Nobody really knows what they're doing in life. Like everyone's trying to find their purpose. And I think when you become a mom, everything kind of moves perfectly into focus. And you sort of realize that like nothing else matters. Like your biological instincts override. And this is the most important thing that I could possibly contribute to planet Earth, you know? So I would say that becoming a mom has moved me probably into the most confident phase of my life, which is incredible because when you weigh that against what you're hearing in the school system, it's constantly being told this propaganda when you're a young woman of like, don't have a family, don't start a family, you know, men too, oh, wait until, you know, you're living out all your player days, and we're constantly fighting against our biology. So it's interesting to see how much of a lie it is.
How's the oldest one you said?
2.5.
Are you nervous for like schooling at all? Or,
Well,
like, what's your
no,
plan
because
for
I'm
that?
me.
Yeah.
First, I live in the South, so I live in Tennessee. So it's a little different. I'd probably be very, very nervous if I was in Los Angeles because the state owns your kids if you live out here. But I also just know myself, and like I'm just not ever going to accept any BS, any nonsense. Like I say, if I have to be the parent that is just, you know, I will be at that principal's office every day. Like I'll ask my kids, like, what are we wearing today? Because mom's going
Teachers
to.
are going to be scared shitless of you, I bet.
Yeah. And I'm like, it's just like, you know, I
Parent
want
teacher interviews, you show up, they're just like, fuck.
I'm gonna be like, you're gonna respect me. Like these are my kids. I don't even like when I see those weird TikToks and the teachers are like, these are our kids, and we're gonna teach them about all 97 genders. I'm like, these are not. Wouldn't that language even start? Like these are your students. These are our kids, you know. And so there's been that sort of brainwashing that's happening, I think, at the college level, and they think that they're going to raise your kids according to what they think or what they've learned in their class, you know, in their college classrooms, and that's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think teachers have too much power?
They have for too long. It's shifting too. So you're starting to see now parents showing up at these school board meetings like, what the heck's been going on? Why is my child learning about this? You know, and I'm actually happy for these TikTok teachers out there wild with the purple blush and all the weird hair and talking about what they're teaching their students behind the parents' back, because there needed to be more exposure. I think before people thought it was a bit of a boogeyman, like, you know, like a conservative boogeyman. People always want to politicize everything. And I think when it comes to kids, what's cool about it is that it's not a left or right issue, you know? So it's like, it's actually this uniting issue where I think parents are realizing, how did we get here? And the answer is because the government kind of superseded parents and said, oh, mom, go be like dad, go to work. You know, every mom used to be a stay-at-home mom. And then they did that poisoning of, definitely in my generation, definitely probably started before then, but just, you don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. You know, men are bad. The patriarchy is telling you that you want to raise your kids and have children. Don't you want to climb the corporate ladder? And I talk about it with pretty much everyone. I'm just like, how are women winning right now? It's, you know, it sucks. Why do we want to compete with men and also then have to go home and make dinner and raise the kids? And so it's a mess, but I think it's a mess that is being corrected right now. Just
for educational purposes, what's like a guy's role when you're going through your pregnancy? What are the main things the guy does or has to do?
You know, it's funny that you say that because not much, you know, like there's not like, you know, there's
you can make the man work a little more. Like you could pull the pregnancy card and stuff.
Yeah.
Too. Like when you want to, probably.
You know what? Here's what I'll say. I'll say every woman has different pregnancy. For me, pregnancy, it's been a blessing. I've had 3 back-to-back. They've all been very easy. And some women, exact opposite. Like my sister, her first kid, she was basically having an allergic reaction for 9 months. You know what I mean? Like it was just like she was like 1 month pregnant and she looked like she was 15 months pregnant. So I think everyone has different pregnancy and they need different things. For me, it's just not that difficult like to be pregnant. So I just like life kind of just goes on as it normally does. But I will say that when I'm pregnant with a boy, as I am again, it was just going to sound crazy, but I'm a lot more aggressive. Like I one time chased a Latino man out of a Chick-fil-A when I was pregnant with my first son. And that I had to look it up. They're like, yeah, when you have testosterone.
Did he run?
Yeah. It was crazy. The
did he
story
mess
was
up your
crazy.
order?
I looked back up the story and I'm like, what was
happened?
the craziest. Yeah, I don't
never
care.
heard it.
You know, it's fine. I mean, it was.
Maybe the wrong sauce?
No, it was even crazier. I was 8 months pregnant, which is like about what I am right now. And it was just when they were doing lockdowns and COVID. And I was living in DC at the time and I was recording the audiobook. And they had just started masks. So it was very new. Nobody was used to having to bring their masks. I drove my car for a lunch break to Chick-fil-A and I went in there and they had the 6 feet social distancing thing. And I had walked away from the car, like 3 blocks away from the car. I get into this Chick-fil-A and there's this tatted up Latino dude. It's only relevant because he was tatted up. I have to mention head to toe tattoos. He's in front of me and we got the 6 feet social distancing and the woman behind the counter was super nice. She was like, hey, you don't have a mask on and like you have to wear a mask now. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Like I left it in the car. And she was like, it's okay. Like we have extra masks. She takes out the mask thing and she offers it to me, but she does it like he's at the register. I'm behind him. And so I went up and grabbed one. He was like, excuse me, you need to keep your social distance. And I was just like, in what world does a man see a pregnant woman, 8 months old, and says like, don't breathe on me? Like I just lost it. I'm already so disappointed in the direction that men have taken over the last couple of generations. Full stop. You know, the difference between your grandfather and the men that we are producing today is just sad and pathetic. It is. It's just sad and pathetic. The concept of like, I'm a tough guy tatted from head to toe, and this pregnant woman might have to breathe for a split second to grab a mask behind. I was like, are you kidding me? And then he said like, F you, bitch, and then I just saw red. And I promise you, I got my food first. I like waited outside. I don't know what my plan was. There was no plan. You know what I mean?
You waited for him?
I was just like, I am not done. It was like doorman, you know what I mean? But what am I doing? I'm 8 months pregnant. I'm hobbling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's like, F you, bitch. And I said, you probably won't say it to my face because you're scared I'm going to effing breathe on you. And then he was like fumbling for his keys. And I was just like following him to his car. There was no plan. I don't know if I was going to follow him to work. It was just a full override of like,
That's
fight
savage.
me at 8 months pregnant. And then I like got in the car. I remember sitting there and I called my husband. I was like, this Latino guy, he's like, where are you? Like, you need to come home right now. You know,
Yeah.
you are just completely out of pocket right now. And I don't know what my plan was. I think I was going to follow this guy to work and beat him up. And then afterwards I was like, that was a pregnancy little, you know, craziness. But it was definitely because I don't like seeing men act like little bitches. And when I see it, like when you see a pregnant woman trying to get masked, you should be jumping over yourself to be like, here you are. And
I
you're
would've grabbed
going
it
like,
for you.
thank you.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
all I needed to hear. I
Yeah.
feel like you just resolved the trauma
Yeah.
from 2.5 years ago by simply saying, I would have handed you the mask.
There was some people that like when they told you to wear the mask, like they did it in such a like power tripping way too. Like you could always tell. Like sometimes someone would be like, "Hey, like would you mind putting your mask on?"
Right.
And you're always like, "All right, sure." Like you know what I mean? But some people would fucking spaz at you and they would like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was a power trip.
Yeah, it was a power
But this
trip.
guy was just like, he was just presenting such an oxymoron in the
Yeah.
head to toe. I'm a tough guy, tattoos, and then like, God forbid a woman steps behind me to grab a mask. And that is, I would say, probably a trigger point for me in general. I just don't like when men don't act like men. Do you know what I mean? The appearances. And
What's the
then-
biggest way to like you said, men that act like little bitches? Like what's like
They're everywhere, but
What does that
definitely
entail?
in the way it's little things too. Like I do a lot of this on my podcast talking about how I am the most likely to get arrested at an airport because just the behavior of men at airports. I had, you know, if you're a girl and you're trying to get your thing in the luggage and a guy comes in faster and throws it in, what's happened? What has gone on in society that men are trying to race women through the airport, throw their bags in front of them? And I saw a guy once. I'll lecture them too. I'm everybody's parent at the airport if they see me. Because I'll have a guy behind me and there'll be a woman by herself with 3 kids trying to put down a stroller and he's like, and I will be like, has it ever occurred to you to like offer to help her to throw it up there? Like anything, has it ever? And then they look super embarrassed and sort of ashamed that a woman has said this to them. And then I'll get in front of them and I'll be like, oh, don't worry, I'll help her. You know, things like that where I don't know what's happened over the last couple of generations, but men don't help women. They don't offer to hold doors and things of that nature. And part of that obviously is because radical
taught not
feminists,
to.
have said, if you hold the door for me, you're implying that I'm weak. So it's not like it's just the fault of men.
Do you ever fear about like looking like a Karen, or do you think you ever overreact?
I literally wear a shirt that says Proud Karen to the airport.
Really?
I sell them.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you go in there ready.
Yeah,
to
I let
battle.
people know, like, you know,
That's
like
solid.
it's not
Yeah.
the whole concept of like is people calling you a Karen is to make you think that what you're doing is not legitimate. Like you shouldn't be upset about seeing something. So I tell people all the time, I'm the number 1 Karen at an airport. If I see something, I say something.
Something about being at the
That's
airport just gets
hilarious.
you fired up.
It's
just a stressful
it's a stressful
environment.
experience, and it obviously has been further burdened by COVID policies and all of that nonsense. So, but yeah, I think we just all have to just do better in terms of how people treat each other out in public, and it's
What's some
gone
other
too
like
far.
don'ts for men to do?
Gosh, I don't want to give men this whole don't list. I just be a
Well,
man.
it's giving us like it's just
Yeah,
good. It's a
yeah.
good time for
You
us
talk
to get-
about like
like
mask.
pick up the bags or put
Yeah.
the bags in the overhead
Yeah.
bins.
Ask if she needs help. Like when you see a woman by herself with 3 kids, I'm like, how do you not naturally want to help her? I do. And I'm just like, how can I help you? She's obviously stressed out. She's got 3 kids. No one's helping her. And you're huffing and puffing because you just want to put your bag on the tray. It's just look around you and see how you can help someone. But I was raised by my grandfather and he was so hyper masculine in that way. He was always like, you know, when I was a little kid, he was holding doors for us and he wanted us to be little ladies and he was putting jackets on us. So when you have that example in your life and you see how men are like supposed to act, and then you see how men are acting today, which I think is beyond horrible. You know, I'm just like,
Do you
How
think
so? Like
wait,
in what ways?
every way imaginable. But I just to be fair again, it's a response to the matriarchy that we're living under, which is telling men that to be a man is wrong. So I think it's hard for men to try to strike that balance. And eventually you get men that are like, well, F you if everything I do is wrong, if I hold the door for you. And that was a real movement where we were learning in school that if a man holds a door for you, it implies that you're too weak. And I'm like,
Do you think it like depends on looks too? Like I would run to get the door for you probably, but if like there's somebody else, like some other people like don't think about it like that.
no, I would hope not. I would hope that people would run to help a woman no matter what she looked like. If she looked like she was struggling,
Yeah.
I would try to help them. And I do it all the time. When I see people, like I'll just stop everything and try to help them, and it's just we just have really poor manners right now. And it's, by the way, it's unique to American society. It's not the same way in Europe.
Yeah.
My husband's always shocked by how rude like men are in America because they're very polite in England.
Yeah.
They
And
still
even
have,
other parts of the world too, right? The laws are so different and stuff.
Mhm.
Here it's like the LGBTQ laws, and
Yeah.
I'm from Canada. It's even crazier
You're
there.
Canadian?
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
did not know you were Canadian.
I'm from like just outside Toronto, Mississauga.
Okay, so why are there so many Canadians like breaking into the entertainment industry? You guys have
always-
great
it's always
singers.
been
Yeah,
that
you
way.
guys have always
Yeah.
been the rappers,
Drake,
the singers.
Bieber.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
like what's happening? It's such a bad country from a government perspective, and yet it produces a
Post
lot of
COVID, it's like completely different now.
yeah.
It used to be like a lot more Canadian pride, but every time I go back there now, I feel like everyone kind of feels the same about it now too.
They're
it's
just trying to
like,
get out.
Yeah, it's just like post COVID was just like, whew, it's
Yeah.
different now.
I can't hear a trace of a Canadian accent on you.
A little bit. If I'm with all my Canadian boys, it starts to come out.
Does
a little
it?
more.
That's what always happens. We
Yeah.
naturally like commute. I've dropped a couple of y'alls since living in the South. I've never said y'all in my life.
Yeah.
It's just because it just naturally happens.
One thing I saw that was crazy was, is it Uganda that they passed like a new
Legislation.
for homosexuality?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think it's great. Great.
So what? No homosexuals?
No, it's not. They're interpreting the law to mean something that it's
I don't
not.
know the law
First
too
and
well, too.
foremost, we say we believe in democracy. So if a bunch of people in another country democratically vote to say we don't want this in our country, we should respect it. But America is so busy spending money, literally it's billions of dollars per year, trying to get obscure countries that have no issues to take on agendas, And I think that I've largely changed my opinion, and I've obviously talked about this a lot on my podcast, where if you had asked me 10 years ago, I thought it was such a harmless thing when people were talking about gay marriage and love is love, and it all sounds so light. Well, that escalated quickly. Now we're talking about violating YouTube policies if you accurately gender someone, children in classrooms learning about private parts and their sexuality, and kindergarten and first grade. And we were told, no, this is just about love. And obviously it's become about something else. And there is actually a sinister agenda that's going on. And I think what's happening around the world is people are seeing what's going on in America. They're obviously following, we are America, we're the United States of America. We are the most followed country culturally. And they're going, we don't want that to happen here. It's disturbing. And by the way, have you been to Africa?
No.
If you speak to Africans and even try to describe, and what is a woman, Daily Wire, he did this. Where did Matt go? Mabash? Yeah, he was in Kenya. And he just is speaking to like people in Kenya, trying to explain to them transgenderism, and they just laugh at him.
Yeah.
They're just, you're a complete nut. And the tribesmen are all laughing at him. And so this thing that we've created largely in our culture is not something that people even grasp in other countries.
Why do they group trans and gay people together even? Because I feel like it's just not even like
doesn't make any
the
sense.
same. Like, it's just so weird. Why do they group it together?
Because if you collectivize anything, it makes everyone think that they have to stand up for something, right? So they will turn to gay people like, well, you guys have gotten gay marriage and we've tacked our letter onto you, so you must now defend us. And pretty soon they're going to add minor attracted people as the new thing that they're calling pedophiles. And so the more that you collectivize, then you can guarantee that yourself that you have another group of people that have to defend something, even if you know it's largely indefensible. And I think what's happening now is I'm seeing a lot of it actually. There's a lot of gay people and lesbian people that are standing up and saying this actually has nothing to do with who I am. I might be a male and I'm attracted to other males, but I don't believe that children should be learning about sexuality in the classroom or picking their genders. And so, and I think they were scared to kind of come out and say that before for fear of, getting eaten by the beast that they helped feed. But we're seeing more and more of it, that morality is kind of overriding and people are going, this went a little too far too quickly.
Yeah, because I don't know if you saw, but that kid in Uganda, he's like facing the death penalty
I didn't see
for
that.
like I think it's like aggravated homosexuality.
Yeah, but he
So that sounds like honestly you and Gabe in the club on a
Well, can you-
Saturday night.
Okay, that's
Aggravated
out of
homosexuality.
that's crazy. To
But
say.
did you
That's
see
what it
the? But
sounds
did
like.
you
So it's
see
just
the
like-
community note on it?
Huh?
That was what they told you, that he was for aggravated homosexuality. But
That's the charge.
Wait, what
The
did he
charge.
do?
yeah, he's a pedophile.
I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah, he's a pedophile.
Like that's what you'd say. Like you'd probably do something gay to Gabe, and you'd be like, "Well, he kind of like brought me onto it."
oh, so now he's fighting his inner.
It's like
urges,
manslaughter
not-
for like gay.
Okay, yeah, I'm trapped if we go down this road. Let's
Yeah.
just keep going. Do you think that? Do you think it's actually happening as much as people say? Like they're really talking about being gay, trans, like at the kindergarten and first grade level?
Without question, especially here in Los Angeles, there's no question.
I was in the gym the other day, and there's this like 13-year-old kid that like comes in to work out. We actually filmed it, but his parents didn't want us to post it. He's a fan, so he's like, "Oh, I've seen the Trump interview and stuff, and like that." And then I'm like, "What are they teaching you in school?" Or no, he said he saw one of our trans pranks that we did.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, like what do they tell you in school?" And he said, like, they tell us we could be any gender we
Mhm.
want and shit. And like
Mhm.
I've never actually heard that from a kid. And I was like, holy shit. Like
Yeah, those. I mean, the school board meetings
crazy.
that they're posting, it's incredible to
Do you-
see what they're teaching kids. It's something that we never learned. I don't know if you did. I never learned
No.
this in school. So it's crazy how quickly the tides have
insane.
changed. You know, we weren't even focused on sexuality and things of that nature.
Do you think that's something that should even be taught in the school system, or
No.
that should just totally be handled at the house?
Handle at home? 100%. Teach kids arithmetic, teach them how to spell, teach them mathematics, and leave all of the emotional engineering to mom and dad. You know, and I think it over at least since we've been in school. I mean, I graduated high school in 2007. There's been a complete flip, and now the schools think it's their job to sort of emotionally engineer your children, and that's really scary.
where does
Yeah.
that come from though? Like at what level does like someone decide to start teaching that in schools? Like whose fault is that?
Well, I think it's been a long process, and it was a very intentional government mission. I think the feminists,
Our government or like
our government, the West, I would say in general, but America and Canada definitely grabbed the bull by the horns. It makes perfect sense if you understand how people move towards Marxist and socialist society. Essentially, what they're aiming for is full government power, and governments can never be fully powerful if families are strong. So you have to weaken the family, right? And so you can go about weakening the family in tons of different ways. The first is weakening faith, making everyone turn into an atheist. Then you say, actually, the concept of a nuclear family, which is obviously going to be your strongest family, a marriage between a woman and a man, let's say that that's abnormal. Let's have everybody strive towards, pregnant man married to female, I mean, whatever, these headlines that you see that just make your whole brain just goes, I don't even know what we're talking about anymore, because that tells you that you're obviously going to destructure the family entirely. At the same time, you have a push like feminism, which is saying to women, you need to compete with men, don't raise your kids. And at the same time, the government starts saying, we want to sponsor daycare. We want to pay, kids 6 hours a day for school. Mom, you go climb the corporate ladder and be like dad, and we're going to raise the next generation of children, which is effectively what they're done. And it's also why they keep a stranglehold on Hollywood, why people that are in Hollywood are so afraid to say they're conservative if they are. The amount of inboxes I get, I'll lose my whole career if I say that I agree with you that we shouldn't trans kids. It's absurd. It's just absurd that your whole career could fall apart. And you sense that fear. People are afraid to even talk to people that have very normal perspectives, you know what I mean? We're just raising our kids as they were born biologically. God forbid you say that. Mario Lopez came on my podcast a couple of years ago, and he said nothing and almost lost everything. I mean, he just said, for me personally, I think children should make decisions that are permanent when they become adults. I mean, he had to issue that full-throated apology, that copy and pasted one that somebody wrote in Hollywood. They all write, it's like, after deep reflection and consideration, I realized how my words may have harmed someone. He had to do that to save his career. And I don't blame him for doing it. I'm not even knocking him for that, because he's a father and he's got tons of children, but that is how much they care, how severe it is for them to protect that narrative and to control Hollywood, because Hollywood controls minds.
Yeah.
I feel like it's flipping now, though. I think one example is definitely the whole like Bud Light situation, which is like an actual like business example of how like I feel like that was the first anti like woke cancellation ever.
You know what?
That was a big statement by society, I think.
Yeah,
That, like,
people are done.
fed up, right?
People are done.
Speaking of gay, Obama. Do you think he's gay?
152%.
Wait,
I-
yeah, why did
I
you say
followed
that?
that stuff for years, so it's weird that it's kind of. I'm glad that Tucker's kind of bringing this up, but that guy was never debunked. And I'm just like, if you're the president of the United States and some guy comes out and says that he's been doing drugs with you and he's been having sex with you, I'm assuming you've got the lawyers that can take care of his defamation. You know what I mean? Like, this is not,
Because Obama's admitted to doing blow too, right? In college, I think.
don't know, but now his letters have come out between his
He
ex-girlfriends.
looks like a vacuum.
And he talks about how he has all these gay fantasies, and he's not debunking that either. So let me be clear: if somebody came out and said this is a letter that Candace wrote to me, and she's talking about all of her weird sexual fantasies, I would get a lawyer in 3 seconds to say this isn't real. He's not doing any of that.
Do you think you should even care?
Should he care?
Yeah.
If it's fake, I think definitely. He has children. It's kind of pretty gnarly to think that someone's going out there and saying that you're not only a homosexual, which would mean that your entire marriage is a sham and a lie, but also that you were doing crack. I think that's pretty big, right? I mean, I would personally care no matter how old I was. I would never let somebody tarnish a reputation if it wasn't true. And I was always stunned by his lack of a reaction to it. And now that he has ex-girlfriends that are saying that he would write about his homosexual fantasies and they're producing the letters, I mean, wouldn't you say it's not my handwriting? I didn't write it. What person would just not care?
So some letters came out too?
Yeah.
Tell us what you know, because I haven't seen too much.
His he had a ex-girlfriend. I want to say it was at Harvard, don't quote me, but they used to just write, love letters back and forth with each other. And he would write to her in detail about his homoerotic fantasies that he has about men. And then he said, but I'm going to choose to live my life as a heterosexual male, like just as a kind of a business decision is what it almost sounds like. This is what I have to do. And so she doesn't know the guy who said that he was picked up in the limo. And he's been saying that story for years. He has consistently told the same story. He has produced proof. The media has had no interest in debunking it. It's sort of like when Hunter Biden's laptop drops, just no interest, I'm just going to, and that's how you know it's true. Because of course, if this was actually a fake laptop and doctored photos, somebody would be getting sued. You know what I'm saying? You can't just put out fake doctored images and fake letters about me, and I'm just going to be like, I'm just going to stay quiet because it is what it is. It's not, that's
when did those
serious.
letters come out? Like recently, or
that was in the last month. They've been out before, but they had redacted some of them, and then she sort of came out and did an interview about it. And she's not the only one. I mean, these rumors have been following him for years, and I think Tucker kind of just recently unearthed it. The original guy who has not moved his story at all about him going and getting him crack cocaine when he was a senator and then performing fellatio on Barack Obama. I mean, would you just take these rumors sitting down if it didn't happen?
What's up
Playing devil's advocate though, like if someone don't like the conservatives and stuff get pissed if someone does that to Trump, or like just like, does this guy really have any credibility, or like a random guy saying he came out and
he wasn't
blew
random.
Obama.
He had like receipts from his credit card, said exactly which hotel they were at in Chicago.
So there's a lot of proof to it.
Yeah, and like at the time he did a press conference, and any media member could have debunked it. You know what I mean? You would go through and say, this is actually completely ridiculous. This is not what happened. Instead, they did the thing that they always do, which was they problematized the man. Obviously, the man admitted he was doing crack,
Yeah.
and they were like, well, he's also, spent time in prison for credit card fraud. What's that have to do with anything? He's telling you that he hooked up with Barack Obama and had gay orgies. And now you have a woman who knows him who is saying that he's written about his homosexual fantasies. And it just all adds up to me. I don't know any person who would just take that sitting down and wouldn't just say this, or at least a statement. This is completely, I'm not even going to address this. It's so ridiculous and beyond reason. He's never said anything about it. So does it matter that Barack Obama?
So was he the first gay president and black president?
He was the first gay and black president, it looks like.
That's a pretty big achievement.
Which is really big achievement.
Yeah.
Which I think is something we bring us all together.
Did you like Obama or no?
Well, I was a lib when Obama got elected. I didn't vote for him. I didn't vote. The first time I ever voted was for a Republican president. I wasn't engaged in politics, I would say. But you could not, I feel like, as a black person in America, the promise of the first black president. And but by the way, as a white person too, I think
he was very
everyone
inspiring.
was
Good
sort of
speaker.
hit with this feeling of, yay, we have finally getting over the sins of our past America. And I remember crying when he won, the night that he won in 2008. I mean, I was in freshman year of college, but I was sitting there just watching the news. And people were running into the streets and celebrating. And
like as a guy, he's a man. Like Obama's the man. I don't care if he's gay.
He's super
He's a
relatable
dope
too.
guy, but
it's totally cool if Obama's gay. It's totally cool.
It's fine.
What's up with all the liberals and like blow?
And what?
Like Barack Obama at the White House, they're finding blow. Like,
oh,
I didn't know they got down like that.
How
honestly.
amazing is that? I did. I did. Are you kidding me? I mean, Hunter Biden's laptop kind of gave everything away, I think. But it's just incredible that they're going with, we can't figure out who brought the blow in. I think that's amazing. I almost have to respect
It's definitely
it.
not the first time though. It's just the first time someone got caught. No,
It's the most surveilled building in the world. You can't
True.
go 1 inch into there without. You're gonna tell me, and I know exactly where they found it. It's just incredible to believe that they're actually gonna run with. We just couldn't figure out who put the blow in there. That's how you know it's someone high up.
Yeah.
Because they would have thrown an intern on the bus in 4 seconds. You know, they would have thrown. It's got to be someone in the first family. You know,
Back to Obama.
Kareem Jean Pierre or someone. You know,
Yeah.
someone really in it.
People say that Obama's still like pulling the strings with like Biden. Do you think that is going on?
I've actually heard Susan Rice from some people that I know that are still working with the administration that Susan Rice is pulling the strings, but I don't know. That would be full. I have no proof of anything, so that would be me fully dabbling in conspiracy theory. But I think what we can all agree on that's not conspiracy theory is that Biden is not running the show.
Yeah.
For sure. He is not. He can't. He can barely walk right now. I mean, he's
Yeah.
he's got all the early signs of dementia, and it's actually sad to watch because I lost my grandfather a couple of years ago to dementia, and I almost don't want to make fun of it, but it's so evil. I think I can't imagine Jill Biden allowing her husband to suffer that publicly with cameras,
Right.
all for power. I mean, you can see it in his gait and the way that he walks and his
Definitely.
forgetfulness
Everyone
and the
knows it, yeah.
lashing out, something that my grandfather started to do because when they come back into their memory, they're like kind of angry that they don't remember or that somebody wasn't listening to them. And he's showing all the clinical signs of not even early dementia, I would say. He's in dementia. And everyone's just pretending that he's not, and which the media is just whatever.
Yeah.
He's just having another gaffe.
You said you were a freshman in college when you were a liberal.
Yeah, I was a liberal all through college.
When did you make the switch?
After
And why?
university with Trump, which was crazy. I didn't want Trump to win. I was like, absolutely not. Crazy. Maybe Bernie. I remember a bird landed somewhere on Bernie Sanders, and I was like, cool. I wasn't engaged politically at all, and it was just weird because I didn't want Trump to win because I thought he was the guy who says you're fired. And it just didn't make sense to go from like Barack Obama to freaking you're fired. So it was a very innocent reason for not wanting him to win. And then I thought it was amazing that like everyone suddenly said he was like a racist, a sexist, incestuous. They went so hard that it made me go, okay, what's up here? Because that's the guy that was at P. Diddy parties. Everybody liked him. He was in the hip hop music that I listened to. So you're not going to tell me that you just missed the idea. You just totally missed that he was Adolf Hitler for the last 20 years. He's been in the public eye.
Uh-huh.
And so I just decided to listen to one of his speeches. And I heard what he said. And he had pitched directly to Black America. And he like went through all the stats of how Black America was suffering. And then he turned to the camera. He was in Dimondale, Michigan. And then he said, this is the poverty rate, blah, blah, whatever it was. And then he said, Black America, I'm just saying, you've given your vote to them for the last 60 years. What do you have to lose? Take a chance. Do something different. And I was like, pretty good elevator pitch, like nothing wild. And then the media tried to flip it. The media that I trusted tried to flip it and say that he was looking Black America in the eye and telling them they were poor. Don Lemon was like fake crying. The whole thing was weird. And it actually just piqued my interest of how many times do they say that he said something that he didn't say, how many times, because I actually happened to catch that speech. And then it kind of became this whole, journey into realizing that the media just lies and Black America is usually at the nucleus of the lies, because I think they largely view us as irrational and emotional. And they know that if you dangle the little racism carrot, that Black people will just be like, oh, they're like, oh, look, it's racist. And then Black people, and kind of do the bidding for the media without further thought. So, I'm making it sound like it was a very easy process, but I definitely went through a period of almost 2 years of cognitive dissonance, thinking I was crazy because you believe something your whole life.
Yeah.
And then just like that, you realize it's not true. Like I genuinely believed Republicans were racist. I genuinely believed that they wanted to send Black Americans back, that the South was racist. So, and then suddenly I think the opposite. How do you even talk to like your sister? How do you even explain this to your sister? I have 2 sisters and a brother. How do you talk to your friends when your whole circle is vibing one way and suddenly you're seeing something different? It's very hard to go through.
You think that's the biggest reason why people don't like even like the racism topic, or like some people just, how can there not be racism? Like, is it because they don't want to accept like their whole life is kind of like a lie, or like what they've been taught?
Well,
might
the
not be
thing
real.
is there is racism, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. I mean, we see racism against white people, racism against
For
black
sure.
people. It's everywhere. But it's not a systemic issue that's stopping Black America. That whole narrative that like Black people can't get ahead because of racism is complete and utter garbage. Actually, one of the biggest reasons Black people can't get ahead is because they've been fighting the boogeyman of racism, because they have the media and the government wants to have a permanent underclass. You have to have this permanent underclass of slaves, you know? You see this in Marxist societies. They want to keep people warring. You never want people to come together, because once you come together, you're sort of looking at the government. You're not looking at each other and hating each other. So yeah, I think for some people, they don't have the humility to admit they were wrong. And I'm grateful to God that I had the humility to admit I was wrong. Some people just go further into their ignorance. That's when they get the whole delete me if you voted for Trump. I mean, like, if you can't see this, or if you have one bad thing to say about George Floyd, we're not friends. I mean, full people that have been friends for 30 years watch their friendships fall apart over George Floyd. That's wild. Like the internet, that shows you how much power the media has over people's minds. How are you going to try to convince your homie, you've been friends, say you're white and Black, you've been friends for 30 years. The media just presses a button and people legit never talk to each other ever again.
Yeah. Well, I saw recently too, though, that Trump's starting to gain a lot more support from Black America. So why do you think that is?
The first thing I'll say is it's more amongst Black men, which does not surprise me, because a lot of Black men follow my stuff. A lot of Black men do like podcasts talking about like stuff that I say. Black men are way more receptive to it because I think they're guided a little bit more by just common sense, you know what I mean? And they're not going to be as, well, they're men also, they're not going to be as emotional. That's the truth too. There are different attributes. Women are more emotional than men. So I've seen that even in my own work, is that like there's so many YouTubers that like talk about stuff that I do and watch what I do and react. And the Black women have been really not receptive to it, which is really interesting to see. Obviously the mugshot backfired. That was the Black. If you've not seen Black responses on TikTok to Trump's mugshot and you just want to laugh, they are hilarious. It's the funniest things.
Yeah.
I did a whole segment on my show and it was amazing. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, he speaks like a blue collar worker. Even if he's never been a blue collar worker, when you're around him, he's really warm. I mean, you guys have met him. You can't describe it. He's got the thing. And it's not just because he
knows how to make people feel good.
Yeah, he does. He's very, and I try to say to people, I'm like, when you're around him, his aura is it's blue collar, it's relatable. He's funny. He's telling jokes. He doesn't feel like he's this big unattainable person. And that's hard to strive. That's hard to accomplish, rather. That's a difficult note to strike. And he does it over and over again, and people love him for that.
What's your predictions for 2024 then? Do you think that he can win, or?
I think it's going to be interesting. So there's no.
Do you think he gets the nominee, first of all?
I think he probably will end up with the nominee. Yeah, if I'm making a prediction today. Anything can happen, though. Debates are a big thing. And I definitely never thought Ron DeSantis had a chance. I said it from the very beginning, he has no chance, because he doesn't have the it factor that we're talking about. It's the exact opposite when you're around him. Like, I've been around him, and it's like he feels like he thinks you're stupid and he's better than you, and sort of like, you don't really know what he actually thinks, and so he didn't have the it factor, and people were really angry at me for saying that. But I called it from the beginning. I was like, DeSantis just doesn't have the juice,
So who would win then? Besides,
is he electable though? Is Trump even electable with like everything going on?
I don't know. I mean, I have veered away from political prognostications because there's things to even talk about in terms of all the finicky stuff that happened with our election and COVID and policies that have changed and mail-in ballots, and it just gets depressing to talk about. So I just say, who I like in candidates, who I think will go far. I mean, I called Vivek going over Ron DeSantis when Vivek was polling at 1%. And he's very interesting, and he's very hopeful, and he's not mudslinging, which is nice. He's like a excitable academic, you know what I mean? So I just wanted to have everyone on my podcast too. When I spoke to him, I was like, "You're interesting. I know you're polling at 1%, but you're gonna go past DeSantis." And then he did.
Yeah.
He's already polling past him.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Just after that one debate.
Almost before it, they were neck and neck heading into the debate, and I knew that was going to happen. And Vivek has none of the money behind him, and DeSantis has all the money behind him. And it just, his campaign's message was just kind of like, we're better than Trump, but then we're also going to mudsling and beat Trump DeSantis. And Vivek kind of stayed out of the fray and kind of quietly, was like the turtle in the race. And so he's been very exciting to watch. And so I feel more like a sports commentator, where I'm enjoying the sport.
Yeah,
more.
me too.
you know?
It's just fun to watch.
It's fun to watch now, and it makes it better when you're not as emotionally invested in a lot of different ways. And I even like RFK. I think he's like him talking about the vaccine stuff is
Have
super
you ever
cool.
considered running?
No, not right now. I'm running after toddlers, so I got to be a mom first. But right now, no, in my life, not at the place.
I saw you did the podcast you did with Andrew Tate was like one of the most entertaining, greatest podcasts ever.
Yeah, how was that?
It was great. Yeah.
So you went to
I went to there. Bucharest. Yeah, I went there July. Yeah, it's like wow, pretty recently. Now I'm thinking about it. It was freaking hot. Man.
What did you think of him overall?
So I knew Andrew. My husband, I had met him one time before, prior to that, which is crazy because he wasn't this huge. Well, he was big in the UK, but he wasn't big in America. And they're like, he's just gone way more international now. It's amazing to see. And I knew going into it that we were going to have a good conversation because I'm not one of these people that ever wants to sit someone down for a gotcha interview. I was fascinated by Andrew Tate because of the power that he's acquired. You know, this is a person who's being banned in UK schools, right? Because kids are going like, their teachers are brokies. So like, what color is your Bugatti? That's funny. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's funny to think of middle school kids like calling their teachers brokies and asking them what color their Bugattis are. And I have a good sense of humor about that. I think little boys are funny. It's harmless, whatever. But I was genuinely fascinated by what he had built for himself coming from nothing. And that's always for me where I'm going to level the playing field because I knew that we had that in common. And so there was a natural amount of respect in the room to even start a conversation, you know, where I think everyone else goes in there and they're trying to attack him. And, you know, people are trying to, you know, that people are angry at the fact that there's this masculine moment that's rising and they want to blame Andrew Tate on it. And they don't want to actually examine how we got here, which is, you know, the Lena Dunhams of the world. And so it was great. You know, it was, and I wanted to wait too. I knew in the beginning he was gonna, you know, be more of the Andrew Tate. I always say like Andrew Tate, the character, because I'm friends with so many like MMA fighters and they all have like the character that's in the ring and they need that character because you're going in to try to kill someone, right?
Right.
But then when you peel behind it, they are really interesting people, like very interesting, level-headed, well thought out. People think that they're stupid and they're not. And so I wanted to see that side of Andrew and I got it, you know, and I think people saw a different side of him and learned more about him. And so I was, you know, I felt it was great and people were mad at me.
Do you think he's like the right representation of what a man should try and be like?
I think Andrew is in the middle of a transition.
Definitely.
That is how I've read him. I think Andrew was kind of doing whatever. He was young on the internet saying whatever. And now a lot of that stuff is trying to come back to haunt him, but he's just like doesn't care. And you can see, and that's why I said to him in the interview, I said, you know, you've got a lot of power now. And you do have to make a pivot because when people are hanging, when these young kids in particular, these middle schoolers that love his every word are hanging on your every word. And you know why, because he understands why, because they come from fatherless backgrounds and they're looking for that paternity elsewhere. And you've become this cultural figure. And so with great power comes great responsibility. And I've seen him making that transition. And I've tried to communicate that to people who don't understand that. They are just he wasn't perfect when he arrived. Why wasn't he, you know, a perfect Christian conservative? Because he didn't have the opportunities you had in life. And he did pretty darn good for himself. So let's give him a runway to really do some good. And I think he's doing that right now.
Yeah, because I think he's chilled out on like the girls topics a lot. And like at the beginning, I could tell he was some of the shit he was saying, he was just completely trolling.
Yeah.
Like he was like a very serious stand-up comedian. But like some people took it seriously. Obviously, it's the internet. But I could like anyone that found him funny knew like he's not going to take 100% of his girlfriend's OnlyFans. Like
right.
when we went to his house, there was OnlyFans girls there. And it's like, he's not taking 100%.
Yeah.
Like you could tell he's trolling. Yeah.
And then someone finds it and makes it serious. And people were doing this over and over. And I was like, this is weird. Like he once, he was so obviously trolling. And I swear a bunch of conservatives took it seriously. He was like, listen to me. Like, if Hulk Hogan had a vagina, you know, or Megan Fox had a penis.
Yeah.
Who would you sleep with? And then conservatives were like, he's pushing the transgender. I'm like, this is the most obvious, like, troll meant to be hilarious for a 13-year-old to watch. Like, he just said Hulk Hogan with a vagina. The fact that you're trying to make this a serious, like...
I don't think I could answer that one either. That's a really tough decision.
Right. And then people were trying to make it so serious. And so sometimes the humor gets lost. And I think that because of what's going on in Romania, people just they see somebody drowning and they want to step on their heads. There's something sadistic about it, but I see it happen over and
How
over
do
and
you-
over again.
Where do you think his charge comes from? Like, what's the conspiracy behind
I
that,
did a
do you
whole
think?
deep dive on it. You should watch it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, it stems from because I wanted to understand the case because I if he was actually human sex trafficking people from over from America, that's kind of important for me to distance myself from that. And so I looked into his case and what happened when the police raided. The story is wild. I mean, it all boils down to a girl who's, has said that multiple men have sex trafficked her. Like, one of these women that she was like a orphan from Kazakhstan who got adopted in America and was a sex worker before she ever met Andrew. And it's a really fascinating story, and people should at least know the facts of the case before they try to condemn him. My instincts after looking into it is that he's going to very much get off in Romania, and people are going to be very shocked because they don't even know what the case is about, because people have just been pulling up old videos of him and saying that, like,
Damn.
yeah. So
Where
but
can we
we'll
watch
see.
that? Daily Wire.
Yeah.
Plus?
If you look up, I think it's just look up Candace Owens, Andrew Tate. I think I've only done a couple of
gonna
episodes
watch
talking
it.
about it. And after I came back from Romania, I was like, I really want to understand the case. And I just gave people the facts. And
Wow, Happy, that was amazing. I thought the whole no more skinny cam bullshit was just a saying. I guess not.
Honey, I'm home.
Quick, Happy, hide.
Hey, babe.
Hi, honey. How's work?
It was good. Why are you still in bed?
I'm just reading.
With the happy dad?
I mean, it's Friday, right?
Yeah, you're right. Thank God, honestly. We still doing dinner later?
Uh-huh.
Okay, good. I'm starving. Babe, where'd you get this pallet of Happy Dad? These aren't even bad. 100 calories, 2 grams of carbs? It's almost like cheating. I could see why you like these.
How do you feel about like OnlyFans, the overall thing about how girls are just making so much money, and it's almost something like girls would rather just be an OnlyFans girl than do anything else.
yeah, prostitution is the oldest trade in the book. You know what I mean? That's what's happening. Everyone's becoming a sex worker. How do I feel about it? I think it's really gross, and we'll have a lot of regrets. And a lot of the women that you see who are these aren't happily married women with kids, And so, of course, you're selling yourself. And at the end of the day, people make trades, and some people are willing to trade the rest of their life for momentary financial relief. And this kind of gets into people not realizing that it will inevitably come back to haunt you. I think you're seeing that right now. And I actually feel really bad for her, but it's an example of what I'm talking about. The whole Logan Paul, Nina Agdal, Dylan Danis thing that's going on.
What do you think of that?
Why
Pretty
are you-
funny, no?
Why are you smirking?
It's funny.
Well,
I think everyone thinks. I mean,
I mean,
I
it
feel
is.
bad for her though. Like I do.
I genuinely
do.
actually feel bad for her.
I do.
Why do you think not that many
But it
women
is
are
funny.
coming to her aid or trying to stand up for her?
Well, what do you mean? I think first off, she's in a world right now that you're in the UFC fight, fight world. That's a whole different. That's what I was saying just now. Like Andrew, a whole different level of control. People that don't understand that world, which I very much do, because I love Dana White. I love MMA fighters. A lot of these people are my friends. I get that how they're going to troll, So I think she's like Alice in Wonderland right now. And Logan is actually a very hated character. He's hated for a lot of reasons, a lot that has nothing to do with what he does in the ring, but more to do with talking, like he came after me on this podcast once, And so the problem isn't that people don't want to defend her. They don't want to defend him because he's flip-flopped. He's turned against his friends. He's turned against his brother. Jake is cool, by the way. I actually really like Jake.
Yeah, I fuck with
Logan
Jake.
is like very like buried underneath it all. I hate to say this, but there's a lot of bitch behavior. Like when he called me out on his podcast, did you ever see that thing where he was like full on acting?
He's talked
What-
shit about
what did
us
he
a
say
lot,
about you?
too.
Dude, did you see?
I can't remember what he said about
gotta-
you.
I think he's
you
took
gotta
more
throw
shots
in the
at us,
clip
for
when you
sure.
guys edit this of like when
Okay.
he was like he does things when he knows he has to. He wants to basically placate the left and the right. You get what I'm saying? At different moments. And so when he was placating the left, he was suddenly like, white privilege is real. If you are white, you are privileged. And I have finally found the moment where I have realized this. And then his little homeboy to the left starts taking shots at me because I don't support Black Lives Matter, which is just wild to have two white men. I don't know. The whole thing was just wild. So I, said something on Twitter, and then he like privately wanted to be like, oh, like, no, I'd love to have you on the show and we can talk about it. I'm like, I said right when I sent the thing, I said, he's never gonna have me on a show, because that was all about showing the left that he was whatever. And he's not about that life, because if he meaningfully said that and thought it was real, like, that I'm this big bad person who doesn't support BLM, why are you doing it in a room filled with a bunch of white guys? Have me on to talk about what I actually think. You guys had me on. Some people agree, some people don't agree, but at least have the conversation. If you're saying what you say meaningfully, didn't do that, and then kept pushing it like, oh yeah, no, definitely gonna have you on. Then I hear nothing from him. And then privately, when all the Kanye stuff starts happening, he's like, hey, can you get you and Kanye come on my show? And I said to him privately on Twitter, I was like, oh, so you weren't available this whole time
And
for the last
Kanye?
2 years.
Damn.
Yeah, he was. So you know what I mean? He's all about getting the clicks. And so that's bitch behavior. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mind having a disagreement with you, but you better believe what you believe. And I don't think anybody knows what he believes, but we know what Jake believes. You know what I mean? Like, Jake is much more like, he's not trying to just say stuff to stay relevant. And he will say whatever he has to say to please the YouTube gods, to please the left. And I think that that's not attractive.
Yeah.
Did you see that Dylan Dennis has like a secret photo?
Listen, Dylan has been going hard. Like, I mean,
It is absurd.
I
feel bad for Nina.
Okay.
I want to say this, and I think
Yeah.
she's like,
she's just
for
Alice in
any
Wonderland.
girl to have to go through that, that's fucked.
Yeah.
But it is absurd how many different photos there are of just even like old men, like, and like, you know what I'm saying? Like DiCaprio,
Well,
like that's dope. Like,
yeah, I mean I don't think that's a bad thing.
Inception,
That's
Titanic,
he might as well
Catch
own
Me If You
DiCaprio.
Can. Great.
But I
flicks,
wanted to
but-
say, are you ever like, so you saw the video about like the sausage? She's talking about how she needs that.
Yeah.
It does. I think it did over 200 million views
Yeah.
on Twitter. Have you ever
No, I
like?
think he got 2 billion in like 40.
Are you ever like, how the fuck? Like, how are so many people tuned into this?
You mean like, why are there some people that are watching it? I think it's because he just went so hard over and over again. But there is a lesson to be learned in what's happened to her too. It's, she looks pretty young when she's saying all the stuff. And I think that women experiment with feminism, and, that, like we're talking about, sex sells and everyone says it and they think it's cool and it's relevant. But at the end of the day, and this kind of gets into what Andrew Tate and I were talking about, like, men don't want that, right? So you can do that. You can make money. You can become a model. You can, be invited to all the cool parties. But when men have to actually think about who they want to be the mother of their children, who they want to bring home to mom, and you have an internet, videos of you talking about how much you want cock, it's just not gonna play well, and what it does is I think it hits at something in a man's biology. Like, men want to know that a woman is theirs. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And then when you see, okay, she was this person's and this person's, and this person was paying the sub to watch her be half naked. And so women have to think long-term about what they actually want, because if what you want in the short term is to make some money, there's plenty of ways to do it, become another influencer, Instagram model, but all these women are going to suffer from it.
Yeah.
I mean, Kim Kardashian, you've got Emily Ratajkowski, find me the man that is going to marry her. And what happened when she did get married? She got cheated on.
But who's at fault there? Because are the guys at fault because they give them all the attention, or are the girls at fault because they're like, yo, this is so easy. I can just post a picture of my ass,
It's
make
all
this money.
trades. That's what I'm saying. You're trading your present for your future. And then I think when those women get older and suddenly now they're not the hottest girls, you're not getting hotter as you age as a woman,
Yeah.
right? There's always going to be a younger 18, 19, 20-year-olds on TikTok doing the exact same thing, making the exact same money. And the men are going to start looking at them naturally, And so now you're washed up, and the ass pics aren't ass picking.
When is it appropriate to, if I'm in a relationship, when is it appropriate to ask how many people you've slept with before me?
You can ask whenever you want.
You think that's a first date type thing, or you gotta wait? Because he definitely is like probably like surprised too, right?
I think
There's no way he's seen everything.
no.
You think?
No way.
No.
No way he had. I mean, the videos
No.
startled me. I followed her for fitness because I'm super into fitness.
Oh, you already followed her.
Yeah, I like Nina Agdal. I've liked her for. I mean, I got very into fitness over the last. I've always been into fitness, like very into it over the last, I would say, 6 years. And she's, I think she's very pretty. I know that now everyone's saying she's not pretty, but I thought she was absolutely beautiful. And she was into fitness, so she started this thing called the Agdal method. And so I I liked her for fitness. Like, oh, great. She's like a young girl, probably going to get married into fitness. I had no idea about all of this other stuff. I knew she dated Leonardo DiCaprio for 1 year, but I think that's like the Hollywood rite of passage at this point.
Yeah.
But who
for
hasn't,
models.
right?
Yeah, exactly. I think everybody has done that. But other than that, I actually didn't know anything. So Dylan Dana's digging this up. I mean, she's now suing him.
I just saw that today.
Yeah, and she's suing him because she's saying that it's caused her actual damage to her career.
You think there's a case
Definitely.
there?
She could probably prove that too. Like there's
I-
definitely some trauma going on there.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's all I can say is it escalated very quickly, but there is a lesson buried in,
Yeah.
in it for women.
What do you think the biggest takeaway for a woman is there?
Is just realizing that, that cutesy wootsy freedom, sex, I want to talk about cock on the internet and all that stuff might be serving you in your early 20s. She looks like she's in her early 20s, maybe even younger in some of those videos. And it's coming back to haunt her really badly. And unfortunately, it's making her, I think, to other men seem like damaged goods. Like it's because it's not what men want. And so you're not ever going to be able to have a social movement, right? Like feminism that's going to trump biological instinct. And men want something that feels proprietary to them. Men like the chase. They like the mystery of women. They like wondering, what she's like. And women are just putting it out there now where like, I feel like I say to my friends, I'm like, I feel like I've had sex with Emily Ratajkowski. She's been naked so much on my phone. Like every time I open it, like Emily's naked here. Naked. I'm like, we've all slept with her. So how could any man reasonably want to say I want to marry?
Why do you like to go at Emily so much?
Because she's so naked on it. She's like her whole brand has done nudity in a way.
What
that-
about girls that like, and I'm just playing devil's advocate, but what about girls that just say like, it's my body, like if I'm okay
That's
with
what she
it.
does. Fine.
But
it's
look at how many
trades.
careers
It's
that's
trades.
made for
That's my
women.
point. Fine.
You made it for Kim. She's
Listen,
a billionaire.
She is, and she's also on her fourth marriage. And Emily's has just finished her first one. So like I say to women, it's trades. You know what I mean? And what's going to happen now? Are they getting younger? Are they getting hotter?
Do you believe in the Kardashian theory that they kind of drive guys crazy?
We'll see what happens to Travis Barker. Because he seems pretty chill. So if something wild happens to Travis Barker, I'm gonna be like fully invested in the Kardashian curse.
Yeah.
Have you been in touch with Kanye recently at all?
I do not publicly speak about
Okay.
my relationship with Kanye because of
That's fair.
everything that happened at the end of last year. For whatever reason, as soon as the public hears that me and Kanye speak, it becomes this obsession
right.
with trying to, get involved in it. And
sure, that
I
makes
mean,
sense.
yeah, he is happily dating someone else other than Kim in Italy. And there still seems to be this kind of media obsession with him, despite them saying, go away. He went away.
Yeah.
And they still won't leave the man alone. So I just don't know what the media wants from Kanye. But it is, yeah.
You think that's a negative? Like it seems like it's becoming a huge problem, but all these power couples that put their entire relationship for everybody, like that's never going to end well, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I think when you're him, it doesn't matter who you date now.
Yeah.
He's just, his star is
Did you
so
see him in
big.
Italy
Yeah.
on the
did.
boat?
I did. And you know what's interesting? You could say I'm the one, oh my God, this is so inappropriate and it's awful, but we don't know how that lens was.
Yeah.
These paparazzi lenses,
You see that photo, Kyle?
it was
Look him on the
crazy.
Yeah.
At least it wasn't like in a pup or whatever, pup play.
Yeah.
You can't get caught doing that.
You can't get
Then
caught
he's-
doing that. That was wild. Yeah. But there has been, every time I open the news, it's like following Kanye and Bianca, and the media. And they wrote a whole letter saying, go away, Kanye. He's literally in Italy.
How do you think we can change that or then make a shift where you're not always, like you said, opening your phone and all these guys are just so attracted and just obsessed with seeing women all over social media? Like, is that ever going
I
to
mean,
change?
as a guy, no offense. If it's there, we're gonna look.
Of course you are.
Like
Of
it's
course you
not
are.
possible to not.
Yeah.
I
Like,
think that hits at a bigger problem. And I've been doing a lot of work on my podcast. And it's been really shocking to see how many men write in and talk about porn addiction. And they keep saying that no man, not many men will talk about it. And it's something that so many men are struggling from. And my husband doesn't have any social media because he said to me, which I didn't even think about it. He's like, it's all pornography. And I'm so conscious of it now. But when he said it at the time, I didn't even, that's what I'm talking about. So you turn on Instagram and it's just butt cheeks. You just got Kim Kardashian full frontal, like a tiny little sliver covering her crotch
trust me,
area.
he sends
That
me
is-
all the time.
Yes,
DMs
yes,
different chick.
It's crazy.
I do.
And so, and men are biologically wired to respond to that. So once upon a time, it was already difficult when men had these pornography magazines, but they had to go through effort to get the magazine and slide it in between their mattress and things of that nature. Now it's just freely available at all times. And I don't think that there's enough men talking about what that does to men and how men are suffering from this overly pornographic society where, I mean, we're even desensitized to ads. I mean, you look at a Gucci bag, and the woman's running in the ad with like when she's butt naked. Why does she have to be butt naked for you to sell this purse? And so I have had to check myself and realize how desensitized I have become to what is blatantly softcore porn everywhere in our
That's
society.
true. Yeah, I know.
And then thinking about how I think it renders men weaker, you know,
Yeah.
men that are suffering from like, you know, can't stop masturbating all day and things of that nature. No one wants to talk about it. They want to pretend that it's not happening, and we're facing a full-on epidemic.
Do you want to talk about it?
Me?
Yeah.
Your
I don't
problems.
masturbate all day.
Hungover.
I don't know what a porn
If you're
addiction
hungover,
is.
you're having
I
a
don't know
day.
what a porn addiction is, but
That's sad. You got to start a podcast.
About what? The porn
Porn
addiction?
addiction. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
so
'cause
many
everyone
men.
talks about that, too.
Yeah,
What's-
I'm telling you, that write in are like, thank you for talking about this. Like I've suffered
but like
from
porn
this.
all day long.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
on- but like not on the
once
hub,
every
social
other
media.
day, or like
I
3
didn't.
times
I'm not
a
gonna
week.
lie. I didn't like respond in the
Yeah.
comments on YouTube like, "Hey, how many times are you masturbating per day?" But the general sentiment that I got was that men are really suffering from it, you know, and like they like don't know how to. And Andrew Tate does some work in this space. He's talked about pornography a lot, and I think that's also part of the reason that there's a lot of people that follow him, and you know, it's just temptation everywhere at all times.
The Instagram is definitely crazy though. I mean, yeah,
crazy.
if you're in a relationship, you're opening your Instagram, you're always seeing something different, like right in your face, something maybe better, something different.
Yeah.
And it makes it tough to kind of
Focus, yeah.
on one thing.
Yeah.
But it's
For
all,
sure.
it's also like I know a girl, for instance, 20 years old, makes $500K a month doing this stuff.
Mhm.
Lives in an apartment that people would dream to live in,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just sitting there like, how is this reality?
You sound in love over there.
I mean, kind of like for me, like it'd be cool to date her because I don't have it like
But
that.
that's hitting at the addiction, because you know what's happening is who's funding that? Men that don't even have the money to keep paying.
So
her.
why don't men get more of the pressure then? Because they're the ones supporting this. Like they're the
It's
ones
both.
paying that money.
It's both. It is both sides of it. They're paying that money. They don't even have the money. You've got some weird kid in his mom's basement that's, you know, keeps upgrading to see more and more and more of her because he's developing like a love for this woman that he can't have, and it's never going to be enough because she's on a screen.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? But it's not like it's not the super wealthy people that are funding her. It's the dollars that are coming in and people that can barely afford it because they're addicted. You
Yeah,
know?
you'd probably crush on there.
And what?
OnlyFans.
No.
You'd make 20 mil a year probably.
I would teach history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
What was that too much?
No,
It's true.
I would teach history, and I'd make 20 million a month.
What do you think? Because you always talk about like men lacking masculinity features or whatever. What do you think women now need to change, or what like are the biggest things?
I would love to see women enjoy their faces once again. They're all looking exactly the same. It's like they've all gone into the doctor and said, "Give me this look." And actually, what's funny is that with the rise of transgenderism, I don't know how guys are sure anymore. Like, because these I don't know, we just call it trans women, look now like the Hollywood girls. They're all getting the same, like the buccal fat removal. I don't even
Mhm.
know what it's called. So that they have this and the lips, and now everyone looks exactly the same. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like women should stop getting Botox when they're
Yeah,
25.
they're getting
What
better and
about
better, right?
should we
They're
ban
getting good.
BBLs?
That's the most dangerous surgery you can possibly get. That's the most insane surgery that women are getting, dying on the table left and right because they don't know if the vein runs where it runs through in your butt. So if they hit it, you die. It's incredible how many women die a year. It is by far the most dangerous surgery. But that's another one women are getting all the time. And what's sad is that it's such a quick fix. Of course, that stuff's going to come back. Like, why don't you get into fitness
Yeah.
and things of that nature, which is kind of what I promote on my platform. Like, why don't you work out as opposed to just being lazy and laying on a table and not realizing that it's going to come back. But I would definitely say also just the faces. It's they don't look good to me. I don't know if I'm not edited that way or my brain doesn't work that way, but I don't think when women can't move their face that it looks attractive, and they look terrifying by the time they're 40. Terrifying. 'Cause
Oh
move
yeah,
it
you
for the
can't
same-
age with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Trades now you're like, oh, okay, looks kind of cute when she's 25, and then by the time she hits 35, it just cracks, you know, because now the stuff is moving in her face. Like, the girls are getting all the filler. Filler is crazy. Men are getting filler now. Look at Simon Cowell.
No, he's not. What, like lip filler?
His whole face. He just actually spoke out about his like addiction to it, and now he said that his like son told him that he looked really scary, and now he's gonna stop.
Oh shit.
It's like, I'm like, you're a man. Men look good when they age. That's the whole point of being a man. Like, men age like fine wine. So it's, why would you be, but they just are caught in this weird simulation. So I would definitely like to see women not getting like the scary face every woman has.
Do you think that people are becoming like lazier now with how much success you can get in social media, YouTube, like stuff that we do, right?
Yeah.
and they don't want to go to work, like, is that going to become an issue, you think?
I think it's creating depression. I think everyone's kind of has this mentality of how do you make a quick buck, and they don't want to work hard, and they think the easiest way to do it is either sell their bodies and things of that nature. But there's definitely a cultural depression going on. People don't go outside anymore. I mean, it's just everybody's living through their screen, which is problematic and not good. And that's something that I think having a real life outside of the internet and starting a family, it naturally pulls you away from all of that. I'm like spending my free time at the farmer's market,
Yeah.
and things, learning how to grow, garden, things that it actually makes you happier, which is what I try to tell people. Like, all this stuff seems stupid, but I love my garden.
Why do you think the main reason is? It seems like people just don't want families and kids anymore like they used to.
I think they do, but I think they're scared because they've been conditioned to think that, and by the way, a lot of it's going wrong because it's hard to find a quality woman. It's hard to find a quality man. So what we're talking about, there's so much out there that is tempting to people. And so that makes it difficult, especially if you live in a city like LA or New York and your idea is like, the hedge fund guy that you want to try to capture, as opposed to like someone who just loves his family and goes to church on a Sunday. And women, I mean, what you're talking about, every woman's a thought now, right? What did someone call it? I watched, was it PJW? What did he call it? He called it hoflation.
Hoflation?
Yeah. He's like, hoflation.
Well, is that a serious issue?
I'm gonna try to. It's a very serious issue, and I'm glad you asked. It's worse than inflation. It's actually a very. If I run for president, this is gonna be my platform.
Hoflation needs
hoflation.
To. You gotta fix that.
We got to bring down hoflation. So he was describing is
there's an inflation of hoes.
Yeah, but what he was saying was that he was like, your grandfather, when he met your grandmother, like, he basically had to do so much less work to find the highest quality woman, right? Who like cooks, cleans, loved God, like, loves the Lord, all this stuff. And he's like, now men have to do the absolute most and they're still bringing in hoes, So he was calling it hoflation, and it is an epidemic, And so I think that we live in a very hoflationary environment. And
there's some positives to hoflation.
If you vote for me as your president, I will fix the economy.
Tell us about the new show out on Daily Wire Plus, Convicting a Murderer.
Yes, Convicting a Murderer. Did any of you guys watch Making a Murderer on Netflix? No live listeners have.
I've watched a lot of like shows like that. Like, what are the two twins that killed their parents?
Yeah, well, this one was like
Menendez
the
brothers.
First really big Netflix one that they did.
Ago,
yeah, and everybody watched it. It was like about Stephen Avery. It's this guy, and he basically actually did get convicted wrongly for attempted murder and rape of this woman. This was pre-DNA, so people, would just point someone in a lineup and say they did it. This woman barely escaped with her life, and she pointed to Stephen Avery, and she was wrong. And years later, he served about 12 years in prison wrongly for that. 6 of the years he was there for an illegitimate reason, but he's 12 years for something that he didn't actually do. He gets out, and suddenly he's not out for long, and he gets accused of committing a murder of another woman. So it became this, like, everyone was like, no, the system's out to get him. There's a $36 million lawsuit that he has against the city of Manitowoc County, and this is basically bad policing and all of this stuff. And so these documentary makers swooped down and created this whole documentary, like, telling the story of Stephen Avery, and people watched it. And tens of millions of people around the world convinced that he was innocent of this second crime. And Netflix really got behind this narrative in a big way. And so it caused, like, this was basically White Lives Matter. Before there was Black Lives Matter, there was White Lives Matter. People crying outside of the courtroom, saying this man was innocent. They wrote songs about him. I mean, this culture phenomenon has kept up for years. And in reality, which my docuseries will explore, we kind of went back and looked at the facts of this case. He did end up getting convicted of killing this woman, Teresa Hallback, under the most horrific terms possible. I mean, we're talking rape, set on fire, shot, smashed into a pit, all of these things. And he's got fiancés in prison. He's been married multiple, like crazy. Nobody cares about the facts after a certain point once something becomes a cultural phenomenon. And so I felt like after doing my BLM doc and kind of exposing the truth about the George Floyd story, people kind of pigeonholed me into thinking, like, oh, she only cares about this issue because it's Black versus white. In reality, I just care about the truth no matter what. It doesn't matter what color the criminal is. I'm very interested in the media's ability to warp people's minds. And this was an earlier example of that. So we kind of went back in, showed people what Netflix did. It really got into the case details, talked about how he got there, what they left out, who the Averys were. They made him seem like this close-knit, family that just loved each other and were trying to get over this trauma of having him put in prison wrongly. My documentary is going to show you, but you just listen to these prison calls, N-word this. And I mean, these were some really bad people. The way they speak about women, the way they speak about Black people. So it's a number, and it's just, again, one of those times to examine how easily we all of us can be manipulated by the media. I have fallen victim to the media narratives before, and I'm not perfect. Maybe I'll fall for one in the future, but the Stephen Avery story and Convicting a Murderer is a 10-part docuseries that we did. And I don't know why I'm always pregnant when I do documentaries, The Daily Wire. It's weird, but I'm pregnant again, this one. So
That's crazy. Yeah, I know. Just leaving out some facts and stuff can really just twist the narrative and stuff. I guess, right? Why did you guys want to like prove that case wrong?
I think for me, that's kind of been my interest since having what we talked about earlier, that cognitive dissonance moment, and realizing how wrong I was about Republicans and thinking everything my whole life. I've kind of committed the rest of my life to always wanting to explore narratives that maybe people got wrong and that we all believe to be one way or the other.
Right.
Sometimes it's political. This one, it's apolitical. It's more cultural. But I think a lot of times it's just social justice movements in general have the ability to warp people's minds, whether it's Me Too movement, BLM, whether it's one person like Stephen Avery, and the ability of a documentary maker to tell a story that we want to believe in, which is like, we want to believe the cops are crooked. It just helps people, I think, explore their own mentality. And in this one, I've already gotten hate mail from my fans. They're like, I watched it. He's innocent. Candace, just stay out of this one. We followed it for 10 years. So I'm really excited to show them.
When is that out right now?
It is out right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check that out too. We got a whole fucking
Daily Wire
marathon
Plus. Daily Wire Plus. The first episode completely free, which premiered on X, formerly known as Twitter. I feel like it's like saying like, Ye, the artist formerly known as Kanye West.
X is kind of sticking now, though. I think.
Yeah, it's getting there. Starting to stick. Yeah.
I didn't think it would, but it's starting to.
And the second episode is completely free, also on Daily Wire Plus. And I know that after you watch 2 episodes, you're just gonna binge watch because it's really interesting.
So you're not a big conspiracy girl, too, are you? Like I saw you say, like conspiracies are kind of just as bad as like what the liberals are doing to like conservatives.
It's gone too far.
Yeah,
is what I would say. I think that I think that having a healthy level of skepticism is good, and I have a very more than healthy level of skepticism, I think, is for sure. But what we're seeing now is people go from taking the red pill to taking the black pill. And the black pill is dangerous because it doesn't believe in anything. Everything you see is just like, this person is this person must be controlled by this. And I've seen like people that I used to follow, well-meaning conservatives, just have their brains completely rotted, because they can't see anything. It's like everybody's related to George Soros. Everybody's related to the World Economic Forum. And I'm just wondering if they ever even explored the basic idea of 6 degrees of separation. I could connect every person in this room to George Soros. I promise you I could. There's going to be some school you went to that he funded, maybe the Mike's, his hedge fund, who knows, right? And so what's happened now is they're problematizing every single person that's new. And I saw this a lot with Vivek Ramaswamy. He's like, he took out a scholarship to law school, which like George Soros had a fellowship scholarship, and they're like, he's working for George Soros. It's just like, guys. And they were like, Trump also working for, I'm like, okay, is everyone working for George Soros? And so I've been just a little exhausted, and that's why I say that now I like to do it as like a spectator sport, because everyone has become such a conspiracy theorist that they just can't even see straight. I promise you, I ate a slice of pizza once on my Instagram, and they said I was a part of Pizzagate in New York City, the most appropriate place to eat a slice of pizza. And I was just like, posting this pepperoni pizza, hadn't had pizza,
that is kind of
good pizza in so long, and it was during COVID, and I wanted to prove that I could get the pizza without the vax pass, as I wasn't vaxxed. And then I posted it on my Instagram. Super cool picture. I looked posh. I just got back from interviewing Eric Trump. I was in this wonderful blazer. Every comment, I knew it. They got her. Pizza. I was like, you guys literally just like, if you can't even look at a piece of pizza now on the internet, it's time to log off. You know what I mean? It's time to log off. So we're dealing with that now. And I get it, obviously, because we've been lied to so much about such big things like COVID, as just one example, that it's hard for people to know who or what to trust. But you have to find a healthy balance, or you're just going to become a crazy person. How
about Obama's chef? Did you see what happened with that?
I have not looked into it, but that seems like one I might enjoy.
What is that?
His chef, I don't know too much about it either, but his chef like drowned
Yeah, and it wasn't the first chef that drowned in the lake or something.
Yeah.
And it was just like a weird, people were saying there was a conspiracy theory around it. There may be or may not be, but I have to do
What?
I have to
Shit,
do
it's
my,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah.
Why you give me this?
Oh no, I wasn't.
Oh, okay. No, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like people have been writing about it, but I haven't actually looked at it myself. But you know, yeah, it would be more interesting if it was the Clintons.
Well, that'd be more obvious. Yeah.
It'd be more obvious.
Yeah.
But yeah, Martha's Vineyard, I guess the chef died, and they haven't really told much about how it happened, and so people are running with a lot of conspiracy theories. But I don't know much about that, to be completely honest.
What is one that's like a public conspiracy that you do agree with?
I say this all the time. You're never going to convince me away from this one. Me and my husband have wars about this one. We're on opposite sides. The moon landing. I just can't get behind it. I can't believe it happened.
You don't think it happened?
No. I think it's weird. I think Elon Musk knows it didn't happen because he says whenever he's asked, he's like, "Oh, it's kind of weird how we just never went back." And like the moon is 26,000 miles away, and since being there, we've never gone beyond 200 miles. It's like the whole thing. If you look into it, it's weird. And then like they also live aired it in 1969. Like that's
so
weird.
We've never landed men on the moon
I don't
since
think so.
that.
I don't think we did it the first time.
Yeah.
But like technically,
I agree with you because it's like we're so
weird.
much
That's
more
crazy.
advanced.
We're more advanced. We've never done it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
It's just that the whole thing's weird. And then they lost all the original tapes, but they premiered it live all around the world. We don't even have cell phones. Like the whole thing is just, I can't get behind the moon landing. And I argue with everyone about this. I'm like, guys, leave me alone. This is my conspiracy.
what would be the reason to fake it?
That's a great question. That is a great question.
I mean, some people say it's because the Americans were racing.
Yeah,
Russia.
they won the space race.
Yeah. Like it was like we
Well,
had to do it first or something like that. And also the person they hired
But
to
then Russia
film
would
it
fake it
was
too.
like an LA producer. It's just like there's so many weird things about the moon landing. And I'm like, I tweeted that once. I was like, what is one relatively harmless conspiracy theory that like you could totally see being actually a fact? And I'm like, that we faked the moon landing. That's mine. What about you?
I don't really know. I've always been like just like into conspiracies. Like I'll look
Yeah.
into them, even
Yeah.
like 9/11 back then, or like
Shady.
anything.
So we
There's
definitely
always-
were not told the truth about 9/11. I don't think
Yeah.
that's a conspiracy. I think that's just a fact.
Yeah.
Weird stuff like the phone calls. Like suddenly I can't get service like 3 feet in the air, but you're telling me like in 2001, like 20 people are just like calling their spouses saying the
That
plane
was the craziest
hijacked.
one. Or the Tower 7
Finding
thing.
the passports,
Yeah.
but they couldn't find human remains. I mean, there was a lot of weird stuff. Like they may have added evidence because they had a narrative they wanted to go through, but I think I don't even like calling that conspiracy theory. I think it's just like kind of a fact that like we do not know everything that happened on
Yeah.
that day,
One more thing I want to ask was, what do you think about Kim Jong-un just said that he's going to meet with Putin
I didn't hear
in
that.
Russia. You didn't hear that?
No, but it's not
I
surprising.
guess they're going to discuss North Korea possibly providing weapons to Russia.
Not surprising. I mean, they've always had a relationship. A, B. What are you leaving Putin with? You're folding him into the arms of it's going to be China. It's going to be all of the Asian nations, obviously, because you're basically telling him that he can't do business with anybody in Europe, which should have been a natural alliance. I mean, we've completely fumbled the ball. People have been treating it like we live, the Cold War is still going on. And unfortunately, the problem is that we have a bunch of people that lived through the Cold War that are informing foreign policy, right?
Yeah.
And they're not after peace. They are just after this narrative that Russia, Putin bad, and we've got billions and billions and billions of dollars to spend to prove that, even though there's obviously, this is an unwinnable situation. What are we even doing over there,
Yeah.
other than funding Zelensky?
What do you think? We should get out of Ukraine?
We should have never gone in.
Yeah. You spent
It's not our
billions, right?
business.
Do you think that's more of a like war between Europe? It's like, why are we even involved?
Why does America think that we have to put our nose in everything? It's just, it's stunning to me. And to see people on that Republican primary stage trying to convince us that that's what we have to do. Like we're supposed to be the world's police. It's like, absolutely not. It's completely ridiculous to suggest that. Imagine if Putin had soldiers in Mexico. I mean, that's what we're doing. That's what NATO is. We've got soldiers in other people's backyards and on their borders. And then we say to them, it's because we're the world police. I mean, it's such a nonsense. Like I am very much a nationalist. I believe that we should be focused on things that impact America. I think we should be focusing on what's happening in San Francisco. They've got poop squads. You got people that are in the streets tweaking. We have so many epidemics here that we could choose from. We have a literal invasion happening at our own border, and you're trying to tell me that I need to care about what's happening in Ukraine first. I don't.
Yeah.
That's the answer. I just don't.
Mhm.
Do you ever feel like American society is just like? Do you feel like the U.S. will fall as the world's greatest empire.
Well, we're seeing them talking about, it's definitely not going to be the strongest dollar. And it's, in my opinion, with the way that we are conducting ourselves from a foreign policy perspective, it is inevitable. So if we don't get somebody in there that's going to correct the ship and stop trying to basically say that we will bully everybody in submission, we even say things like, if we won't give you money unless you agree to teach your children pronouns. Like, America's doing this kind of shit. It's crazy. It's literally crazy.
You see what they're learning in China, or the AI thing in China?
No.
The students have like these, I saw it on, I think Joe Rogan reacted it, but they have these like headbands on, and it monitors if they're like paying attention. It monitors if they're tired. It can like tell if they're going on their phone, and it's all tracked to like a tablet, and the parents get like a report. So they're literally just
They're
like
AI kids.
training them to be like they're gonna have a civilization of like.
Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, what
it's
are we teaching
crazy.
our kids? They can't even read, you know? So I don't see how America is not destined to have to deal with the consequences of what we've done to the education system, the consequences of what we've done to people's mentality with all of these ridiculous social justice movements, the consequences of weak families. And I think we're coming to that moment very quickly. And unfortunately, people will be very ill prepared for it because we've lived in times of privilege for so long that we don't understand what it means when you're not number one anymore. And we're going to get smacked in the face. People that who think food grows in a grocery store. That's why I took it upon myself to learn how to grow my food. My husband hunts. I just learned to hunt, because when hard times come, all of this stuff, it's not going to be anything. You know what I mean? It's good. Do you know how to grow fruits and vegetables? If the answer is no, you've got nothing. You know what I mean?
Damn, that's scary.
Yeah.
Okay, so hunter gatherer. What are the 3 most important traits for the most manly man?
I mean, I think men should learn how to hunt, shoot, do all those things. That's attractive to me. Like, that's definitely the thing, like, that attracted me to my husband, because I'm like, okay, there was something biological there. We can live off of a land, and it made me want to go into the hunter gatherer.
No, I saw you said you had a boyfriend and you had to break up with him because you felt that if there was ever a break-in, he wouldn't protect you.
Yeah. I just suddenly realized I was dating this guy in New York City where men are a little softer in New York and LA, I think probably is a fair thing to say. And I remember sitting on a couch and looking at him and just being like, if someone breaks into this house, I'm gonna have.
Did you tell him that?
No, it was no. I said it in my head. I didn't say it, but I broke up with him the next day.
Damn.
I was just like, if
what was your
someone comes to this
explanation, though?
door, I was just like, I blah blah blah, a bunch of BS. But in my head, I just remember looking at him and just having that moment of like, you're not gonna do shit, And it was something that he said about like it was something about the way he bought the lock to double lock in case something. And I'm like, the double lock. Is a double lock gonna keep us safe if someone comes to the store? And
That's
so
funny.
I think men should lean into being protectors, knowing what it means to protect. You don't need to be the biggest guy or the fastest guy, but you should know how to shoot and you should know how to hunt. You should know what to do. My husband knows how to like skin an animal and all that stuff. And I learned it in Africa at the end of last year because I wanted to know how to do it. And I just think that stuff is really, really super important. So we've purchased land and with running water on it that we can live off of. And it was crazy realizing 2 years ago, I didn't know how to grow vegetables. And then when you grow them, you're like, why do I ever buy them at the grocery store? They're so expensive. And when you grow them, your problem is you have too much. It's like crazy. I'm like, how do I go to the farmer's market? How do I turn this into hot sauce? How do I, and so I've been in that phase of my life of just wanting to know how to do everything that our grandparents knew how to do, which is just so wild.
I'm gonna have to start ripping a garden in the backyard.
I know.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty
Something
sauce,
like that.
actually.
Yeah.
I'll do the hunting.
Literal
you do the growing.
sauce if you grow tomatoes.
You grow the crops. I'll
You
hunt.
could barely shoot a gun on the range, man. You were
That's
scared.
all right.
It was a
You'll get
desert
better.
eagle. Have you
Just
shot a
keep doing
deagle?
it.
Have you
Yeah.
shot a deagle before?
What is that?
Like a desert eagle?
No.
Yeah. Okay. There's a lot of recoil.
Yeah.
That's all. I'm just saying.
No, but you
Garden
get
in the
better.
backyard could be
Yeah.
a play, though.
But even just learning about knowing about how to catch different animals, like they're so effing smart, like they're like, they hear you, all this stuff, like how to actually hunt an animal, what rifles you need to use, like all of that stuff is super important. Like men should go on man trips and go learn all that stuff,
Yeah.
because all the other stuff doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day if you can't keep your kids fed and keep,
I agree.
I love the garden play now.
no,
That's big.
for real. And it
There's
could
no
literally,
chance he'll
it could
do that.
literally be
Especially
sauce.
if we do have some girls over to the house and like we show them the hot tub, the pool, and it's like, oh, also we have our own garden. Like,
Yeah.
we grow all our own crops.
They
like,
would be like,
we like to
this
live
is a
off the
random
land.
flex. Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's a.
You think that's
play.
attractive? To
Oh,
see
yeah.
something like
Yeah,
that?
dude.
Oh.
That's dope.
Well, like what are you growing in the back?
I'll grow everything. What are you growing? Like carrots, lettuce.
Yeah. So don't grow watermelons.
Do you grow fruit too, or no?
No, I did
Like trees?
watermelons and I'll never do them again.
Okay.
Because they grow like freaking. I'm not a big I'm a vegetable person. I love vegetables. I eat all vegetables. Fruit, I'm like finicky on depending on textures. But yeah, so I grew what I ate. Obviously it was the first thing. So I had so many different varieties of tomatoes and peppers. I failed at Brussels sprouts, but I think I planted them a little bit too early. To be honest, things that you learn. I just wasn't the right season because you live in an agricultural zone. So there's certain things you can grow down here that I can't grow. Like you can
Okay.
you probably could do
Probably
like
could grow a lot.
avocado
You
trees.
could probably snap.
Yeah, you could. Imagine if you just said to the girl, "Go, I have an avocado tree in the back. Let me just grab you an
That's
avocado."
sauce.
And then you go to the grocery store and you're
Some
spending like
fresh cucumbers.
$20 on a freaking avocado, and you're like, then when you grow them, you're like, why the heck did I ever spend this money? I have so many, I don't know what to do with. So then you get into canning and freezing them. So now I have like these deep freezers in my, and because I'm just gonna eat them all through the winter. Now that I'm done growing all of them, like it's a whole flex.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
I actually love it. We're doing it straight up.
You need to send
wanna
me
bet?
updates of what you're growing. I think
Okay,
it's
I will.
great.
You should do like an instructional video for us or something.
Yeah, you just learn. It's actually so easy. Like I remember when I was so overwhelmed by this idea.
Next time you come back, you can come check on our
you just
garden.
literally drop the
promise.
seeds and the dirt just grows. And then you learn like what's a weed. When it pops up, you're like, is that my fruit or is that my vegetable? And you're like, no, it's a weed. You got to go pull them, and then just suddenly you have so much food and it happens so much faster than you realize. Like it's like a couple of weeks and then you're like, what am I going to do with like all this lettuce? What am I going to do with all this? And then you got to learn how to fight the rabbits. We were smart. We had like a loud noise around them. The animals won't go anywhere near if they can't hear themselves.
Shit.
But
yeah, there's a lot of
then you're suddenly
rabbits.
turning into a hunter.
True.
I hate
Oh, they're shooting.
rabbits.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm pumped.
All right, let's get to the garden.
Yeah, we got to
Let's go buy some seeds.
Well, we appreciate
Yeah.
you. This is your second time coming
my
on too. So we
second
appreciate you
time
giving us
joining the Nelk
time.
Boys. What does it mean?
Stood
by
for
the way?
like when we made it a long time ago. It just like when you make like a random like gamer tag on like a gaming thing.
Yeah.
It stood for like Nick, Elliot, Lucas, Kyle. That's
Okay.
just like who we did it with at the time.
This is your Grand Theft Auto chat. I'm gonna find you.
It's like that, yeah.
yeah.
But now it's just like Nelk Boys. It doesn't even mean anything.
I
It's
like
just
it.
yeah.
yeah. It seems like it means something.
Yeah.
All
Deep
right.
down, it does.
Well, we
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Deep
Thank you so
down
much.
it does. Thank
Yeah,
you
thank
guys
you so
much
much.
for
It's
having
always a
me
good time.
back.
Let's go.
Thank you guys.
Dang.
That was awesome. Yeah, thank you. I'm so serious about the garden.
No, I'm telling you, it's a flex.
There's zero chance he cuts through with that. That's such good content, bro.